Akaza versus Douma. Now I've seen this fight make its laps around TikTok again with a whole bunch of misconceptions and literal fanfic going around. So now I'm here to clear up all these misconceptions and tell you who wins in a fight between Akaza and Douma. So I first want to start off addressing this. Akaza is upper rank 3, meanwhile Doma is upper rank 2, so everybody will automatically think that Doma beats him just because he's a higher rank, when that is wrong. Demons are not normally given their rank. You rise through the ranks via blood combat, which is a 1v1 fight, and you have to request a blood combat in order to rise through the ranks. So demons like Rui, for example, who was lower moon 5, it stated he had no interest in doing blood combat. So while they stated his strength was around that of lower moon 2 to lower moon 1 level, he stayed at upper moon 5, meaning he would be able to defeat lower moon 4 and 3 and probably 2 in a 1v1 fight. But the fact that he didn't want to fight them and did not care about fighting, he would have just stayed at lower moon 5 as he did. The other example we see this with is of course Akaza, as he only aims for the top rank. We only see him challenge Kokoshibo, who is upper rank 1, so he's trying to go directly from upper rank 3 to upper rank 1. Now, something else I want to address before getting into any scaling is the head canon that Akaza and Doma fought for upper moon 2 and that Akaza lost and then became upper rank 3. I don't know why people think this. Is probably because Doma is younger than Akaza and became a demon after him, but we know that's complete headcanon to think that those two fought, and that is highly unlikely. Firstly, because we know the upper ranks does not change a lot. It hadn't changed in over 100 years in the current point of the story, so it would be more logical to assume all the upper ranks were still in their normal ranks and that there was just a previous upper two that Doma defeated and then took their spot. Now, firstly, we know Kokoshibo and Akaza during their fight that it stated that when Kokoshibo defeats the demons, he usually absorbs them with the permission of Muzan. Now, we know that Doma, who defeats every opponent that he has defeated, he is shown to absorb them. Kane, Shinobu's sister, he stated that he wanted to absorb her. He's seen absorbing Shinobu, and then before that we just see him eating girls in Infinity Castle. So we know he always eats his opponent, so it would not make any sense for him to have defeated Akaza for the upper moon 2 spot but left Akaza alive and just let him get demoted, because we know the only reason Kokoshibo did that is because Kokoshibo liked Akaza and that Akaza was a favorite of Kokoshibo. Doma has no emotions and doesn't care about Akaza at all, so him sparing Akaza and letting him live for no apparent reason, it just doesn't make any sense, rather than just saying, oh, he defeated a previous upper moon 2 and just took his spot. That is the more logical assumption to come to. Nobu also states that the reason that Doma would want to absorb her is because she's a skilled and trained Hashira and her body is like at her peak, and that would be more useful to demons to absorb. So through this we can just logically assume that Doma defeated a previous upper moon 2 and that it's highly unlikely that Akaza was upper moon 2 and that he defeated him for that. It's just not implied anywhere in the story, as we get literally statements of Akaza and Kokoshibo fighting, and as I just stated, it would not make sense for Doma to defeat Akaza and not absorb him. It just doesn't make sense at all. Now we can get into scaling. I'll first start with Doma since his scaling will be the quickest to go through. Now, all of the Slayers he fought were on Mark, which I do want to state that getting a Demon Slayer Mark boosts your physical attributes a ton. Firstly, Doma is able to casually react to an enraged Shinobu. Most people misread and think this is a blitz, but Doma did react to this attack and he just could not stop the attack with his hand. He could not stop the attack, but he could react to the attack. After Shinobu tags Doma though, he is able to immediately tag her back. They fight off screen for a bit and we get word that Doma has been hit for the 5th time now once they show them back on screen, and Shinobu being able to hit him 5 times without taking much damage besides the initial breathing in of the frost that she did not know about. That is showing blatant relativity and speed between Shinobu and Douma, and the fact that Shinobu has the frost in her lungs, which, breathing styles is Slayer's main way of fighting. She is actually nerfed while fighting Douma. Any Slayer that fights Douma is immediately nerfed if they breathe in the ice, because it destroys their lungs, in which they then cannot control their breathing and cannot fight at full capacity. Shinobu goes on to tag Douma a few more times, Shinobu getting hit in the same encounter as well when they tagged each other 3 times back to back. Further showing their relativity and speed, Douma calls Shinobu the fastest Hashira he's ever met. It means kinda nothing though, since the only Hashira he meets of the current gen is Shinobu. But Douma then said if she just used her speed and she had more strength, that she could have cut off his head and won, but she lacked the strength to defeat him. Shinobu then goes on to prepare for her last attack. She dashes towards Douma. He states he cannot predict her attack. He goes for a swing at her. She dodges the attack point blank range and impales him through the neck. He did react to this as well, so again, they're extremely relative in speed. They were both reacting to each other the entire time, both landing hits on each other the entire time. Just blatant relativity and speed, not durability or strength though. That ends Douma's battle with Shinobu. He defeats her right there and then starts absorbing her. Douma then goes on to fight Kanao. He tries to blitz Kanao, but she dodges him. She hits him with a slash attack. He immediately sends out another attack at her. She dodges that attack, and Douma states that she is reacting to him and adapting to his fighting style while being able to avoid a Helling the Frost from his blood demon art. Douma then states that Kanao is more skilled than Shinobu, so yes, Shinobu does scale under Kanao. Kanao scales over Shinobu. Next, Douma counts out her attacks as she tags Douma 9 times. Douma then goes on to tag Kanao 9 times back. Douma realizes that Kanao is predicting his movement and using her eyes, so he tries to take out her eyes with his next attack, but she is able to dodge that as well. She clashes with Douma. Douma then uses his ice statues that let him do long range attacks, and Kanao is able to dodge these attacks easily, but is now unable to get close to Douma. After this, Douma does arguably gets a blitz on Kanao, taking her katana right out of her hands. Kanao is able to react to the next attack he sends out though, and aims for the area where she will take the least amount of damage, but Inosuke comes in and swats away Douma's blood demon art. Inosuke rushes right at Douma, misses an attack. Douma goes for an attack on Inosuke, but he is able to kick away his fans, and then Inosuke takes Kanao's swords back without Douma even being able to notice. Douma then decides to rush Inosuke, and Inosuke clashes with him, then kicks him and is able to dodge his fan attack right after. Douma then blitzes Inosuke and takes away his boar mask. Inosuke gets mad and rushes at Douma and ends up being slashed. Kanao comes in and saves him and tells him to calm down. Douma later uses his clones, which he says can use his techniques almost as powerful as he can. Kanao and Inosuke fight these clones. They are blocking their attacks, reacting to their attacks still. Inosuke only gets tagged once as he tried to rush Douma. And I know some people will try to argue that Douma was not trying, as he said that he'll have Inosuke reveal all of his techniques before killing him. First, I want to state, he only states this after he sees the way that Inosuke is dodging his attacks, in which he then becomes interested in Inosuke's way of fighting, so that's why he tries to get Inosuke to use all of his attacks after that. And then I want to say that would not apply to Kanao at all, because he already have previously fought Kane, who uses the same exact breathing as Kanao does, so he would have no reason to make her use her techniques, as he's already seen all of her techniques as she was trained by Kane, which they use the same breathing. Now, one of Doma's more impressive feats is that the fact that even while he took in 70 times the lethal dose of poison from Shinobu, Kanao was still unable to cut off his neck in that poisoned state. Now, to be fair, Doma was, I'm pretty sure, freezing her with his blood demon art, stiffening up her body, but that is still a great feat of Kanao not being able to chop off his neck and knee and the help from Inosuke while he is that poisoned. And about the speed relative, I just want to say, now for the people that argue that Doma blitzed Inosuke when he took his mask and blitzed Kanao when he took her katana, you can just say they clearly had their attention divided, as we see Inosuke go and take Kanao's sword back from Doma, and Doma never fucking notices that he took his sword, so you could also call that a blitz. And then the rest of the fight, they just show complete relativity and speed, so that outlier with them having divided attention would not be much of a feat in speed to get Doma way over them when they're just blatantly scaling to him in other instances. So Doma is relative to Shinobu, Inosuke, and Kanao in speed. He is over them in strength, as I would say that I remember one time he clashed with Kanao with his fan and their sword, and he sent her flying into the water. So I would say it's safe to say that Doma has more strength than them, and we know that Kanao is stronger than Inosuke, so Doma would scale over both of them in strength. But right as far as speed and reaction speed, they're all relative. Now let's talk about Akaza. I'll skip his Rengoku fight and go straight to his Giyu and Tanjiro fight in the Infinity Castle, as that's where his better scaling comes from. Now, Akaza briefly fights with base Giyu, exchanging a few attacks with him. Tanjiro jumps into the fight and Akaza immediately perception blitzes this Tanjiro. Now, I want to state this because you know this base Tanjiro is still stronger than base Inosuke and arguably stronger than base Kanao. This is important because a base non-trying starter to fight Akaza immediately blitzes this Tanjiro, but Tanjiro is able to counter and dodge at the last second. Now, Akaza then goes on to kick Giyu through a wall, incapacitating him. It should also be noted that Giyu and Tsunami are equal to each other in base, as shown in the Pillar Training arc. Giyu and Tsunami fought and they both stalemated. Something I also want to state is that Giyu is more experienced than Tsunami and has been a Hashira longer than him. And we know that Tsunami stated that Tokito got taken out early and it was due to his inexperience in battle, because Tsunami stated that him being in battle so much is the only reason why he was surviving in his Kokushibo fight. This is important because I know a lot of people, they try to do the same thing as they do with Akaza and Doma by scaling Doma over Akaza just because of ranks. They think that Kokushibo was just so massively over Akaza because of their ranks and stuff, where this is just not true at all. The same Tsunami that was getting feats on base Kokushibo, Giyu scales to and has more experience than, so he should be able to replicate the same feats as that base Tsunami, bare minimum, or better. And that base Tsunami who would scale to base Giyu, that base Giyu got one-shotted by a non-trying Akaza at the beginning of the fight. Had Tanjiro not been there, Giyu would have just fucking died right there, gotten killed by Akaza. So the same thing happens to Tsunami. I just want to let that be known, because a lot of people think Tsunami and Gyome also by extension automatically slam Akaza because of scaling to Kokushibo, when we hear no information on Akaza and Kokushibo's fights. And besides them stalemating in a 1v1 during a Hashira training arc, the two of them show high relativity to each other during a Muzan fight, performing similar feats to each other. So this obviously shows that Akaza, who was able to one-shot base Giyu, and Giyu, who scales to Tsunami, would both be able to fight against the base Kokushibo we're seeing Tsunami fight against. Now, after Akaza incapacitates Giyu, he immediately dashes after Tanjiro to fight him. Tanjiro dashes his first attack, but then Akaza goes up with a second attack, which is a kick, and he hits Tanjiro with him. Then Tanjiro goes for another attack. Akaza immediately catches his blade and is about to break it until Giyu returns to the fight with the mark, cutting off Akaza's arm. Giyu is now stated to get faster now that he's marked by Tanjiro and Akaza is immediately said to have matched marked Giyu's speed. This means that Akaza was holding back in the previous of the fight, because if he was able to now go faster and immediately match Mark Giyu's speed, he must have obviously been holding back speed and strength before. This marked Giyu and Akaza go on to clash a few times. Tanjiro tries to jump into the fight. His blade gets caught by Akaza immediately, and this is when Tanjiro starts figuring out his compass. Giyu and Akaza continue fighting, and Tanjiro then hops back in again, and he starts alternating fighting with Giyu, and he's now able to dodge some of Akaza's attacks. Now, while Akaza and Giyu are fighting, they tag each other, and Giyu states that his cuts on Akaza are just way too shallow. And he states that every attack he does on Akaza just sends back with the same amount of precision. As soon as Giyu uses all of his techniques, Akaza comments it's time to end the fights and immediately break Giyu's blade, and he is about to donut and kill Giyu until Tanjiro comes in and saves him. So, this also proves that Akaza was just toying around with Mark Giyu, as he literally broke his blade immediately and was going to one-shot him after he said he was done fighting him and about to kill him. Now, after Tanjiro saves Giyu, unlocking the see-through world and unlocking his mark again, activating his mark, Akaza sees Tanjiro and his body tells him to kill Tanjiro and that he is dangerous. Akaza then uses his strongest attack, which Giyu once again states Akaza is increasing his speed and strength. This is just more evidence to support that Akaza was holding back against Mark Giyu once he was literally when he broke his blade and was about to one-shot him, because Akaza using his strongest attack, Giyu stated he sped up even more and got even stronger, and that move was 100 blow. Giyu called it inescapable while using LOL, which was he was able to block even Muzan's attacks with it, and he stated it was 100 blows from nearly every direction, which I don't think any Hashira except for Giyu would have even been able to block using LOL. Now that Giyu is incapacitated after Akaza uses that attack, Tanjiro, with the see-through world amp and the amp from the Demon Slayer mark being a huge speed buff stated by Akaza and Tanjiro to Giyu, and see-through world being a huge reaction speed buff and regular speed buff in general stated by Tanjiro. Tanjiro, with both of those speed buffs, still does not think he's able to cut off Akaza's head while he has his compass activated. Tanjiro thinks that he must unlock Selfless State in order to be able to aim for Akaza's head and finish the job. This means that even though Tanjiro is massively faster than Akaza whenever he has See-Through World on top of the Mark Amp, he still is not able to defeat and bypass Akaza's compass unless he has Selfless State to where the compass does not detect him. That means that even if somebody was not relative to Akaza in speed like that Tanjiro was, if they're even still massively faster than him, his compass is so good that people still cannot defeat him in a fight unless they're able to get past that compass. And even after Akaza gets his head cut off, he immediately closes his head wound, reopens his compass move back up, and starts fighting again. Giyu also states that his regeneration is still on an entirely different level even while having his head cut off, immediately healing his body that was sliced by Giyu. And as we know, Akaza ended up getting his memories back and then suicides, ending his fight with Giyu and Tanjiro. So let's summarize this now. Douma scales to Shinobu, Kanao, and Inosuke in speed, and he scales over them in strength, all unmarked slayers. He's able to create up to 5 Ice clones that can do his techniques just as powerful as his own. He has long ranged attacks, and he uses his fans for short ranged attacks. He can freeze people's lungs, but that's only really useful against slayers. It's not too useful against a battle like Akaza because he doesn't need to breathe. He can freeze people's eyes, which also isn't much to Akaza because Akaza is able to fight without his head. And he's able to completely freeze people's body in place. When Douma is injured, his attack precision does go down though, as we see when he was just doing desperate moves. When Shinobu poisoned him, Kanao stated that his attack precision was low and that he was just spamming all over the place basically. Now I want to state that none of these Hashiras who fought Douma ever gets tagged until they lose their cool or just rushed in with no plan. Or unless they're trading blows, because they traded blows multiple times, but there was never a time where Doma just came up and tagged one of them without them being able to fight back or even react. Now, Akaza, however, is able to completely disappear from the side of Tanjiro, who I stated is above the likes of Inosuke and Kanao at that time already most likely. He's scaling above Inosuke for sure, and Kanao is debatable with just base Tanjiro. But it's like, even if we're not, I'm just adding that in as a feat because I know people would talk about how Doma blitzed. You can call it a blitz on Kanao and Inosuke, but Akaza did the same thing to somewhat a stronger opponent, so that doesn't really matter too much. And that's even if you count what Doma did as a blitz on them, because as we know, Inosuke was able to grab Kanao's katana right back from Doma without him ever noticing. On top of Akaza holding back against a base Giyu who is more experienced and has better defensive moves than Shinobu, Kanao, and Inosuke, so he would be a better fighter than them in general. We see Akaza completely low diff Giyu. He then goes on to immediately match Mark Giyu, plays around with Mark Giyu, and then, and we all know that Mark is a huge speed amp, he plays around with Mark Giyu, breaks his blade, was about to one-shot him until Tanjiro steps in, and even after that, he increases his speed and strength even more, unleashing a deadly attack that attacks nearly 100 blows at all random directions. So, again, just to summarize, Akaza is able to blitz characters stronger than the ones Doma blitzed, while he's still holding back significantly. He's just able to blitz and completely overpower Mark Giyu, who performs and is just blatantly above the likes of Shinobu, Inosuke, and Kanao. Yes, his feats throughout his Akaza fight and his Muzan fight, where he was one of the more main supporting roles, while Inosuke, Zenitsu, and Kanao, they firstly could not even make their blades red because they did not have the same arm strength as the pillars, but they also was just playing supporting roles and being blind for part of the fight. Meanwhile, Giyu, who fought the entire time, the whole entire Akaza fight, the entire Muzan fight, and went on to fight Demon King Tanjiro, he played a big role the entire time, and part of the time he was fighting, he had a broken blade, and he still massively outperformed them. But I mean, both of them are non-marked Hashira. Giyu is a marked Hashira with way more experience than them and better breathing style, so it's not too crazy I don't think to anyone to say that Giyu is massively above them. And I don't think I have to talk about Akaza's reaction speed being superior to Doma as much as Akaza's Blood Demon art literally gives him the ability to sense and counter people with a battle spirit, and it pulls him like a magnet into their vital spots, so he has perfect accuracy where he's aiming for. I don't think there's any argument with Akaza having a better reaction speed, because we also know Akaza is able to counter Tanjiro, who has the see-through world and who is marked, which is he is now faster than Akaza, but he's still not able to bypass compass because it helps Akaza's reaction speed so much. Akaza is also able to use short range attacks where he just hand-to-hand combat, and for long range attacks he's able to use shock waves to send out attacks, so he has both long and short range attacks. So now with all of that being said, who wins this fight, Akaza or Doma? Akaza clearly beats Doma in this fight as he has just better feats overall. He scales higher than him in speed via scaling massively over Mark Giyu, who scales he was faster than every Hashira that Doma fought. He scales over Doma in strength as he's able to overpower Mark Giyu, who is stronger than Kanao, who was able to exchange attacks with him multiple times. Inosuke as well. He only overpowered them on one occasion where he sent Kanao into the water. Doma also doesn't have great enough speed feats to let him bypass Compass, as we know that a Mark Giyu and a See the World and Mark Tanjiro still was not enough to be able to bypass his Compass, and that he needed to get Selfless State in order to do that. Doma, I know some people think he would have Selfless State because he has no emotions, and that is completely false. He would still have a battle spirit. Having no emotions does not mean you don't have a battle spirit. Doma would still emit a battle spirit, so therefore he would still be able to get detected by Akaza's Compass, in which he would not be able to get past it. Akaza is going to notice him every single time, and he will be able to counter his attacks. Doma's only real win con, but if Akaza doesn't just completely blitz and pummel him during the fight, just completely just keeping it hand-to-hand combat close and just beating his ass, would just be Doma using long range attacks. But we know that first thing first, his clones that he can spawn that can use the same attacks as him, those clones scale to Kanao and Inosuke. Those clones were never able to tag Kanao and Inosuke, and as I've already said, Akaza was able to easily blitz and overpower Mark Giyu, who was massively above Kanao and Inosuke. So, and he was able to do that against the defense law. Neither one of them has a defense on that level, so if they're both able to combat the clones and dodge the clones and fight with them easily, then that means they're relative to them. And then they're relative to Kanao and Inosuke, who are massively under Mark Giyu. Then that means Akaza, a fully trying serious Akaza, not the one who was at the beginning of the fight just playing around. Akaza was actually trying. He completely blitzes and just one-shots those clones away. So that's not a real win con for Doma. He could try to spam long-range attacks and just freeze Akaza, but Akaza is just going to be way too fast for that. He's going to have counters for that. The demon, Doma's blood demon art is not going to be as useful against Akaza as it would be the other humans, as taking out Akaza's eyes or taking out his breathing would literally do nothing to his fighting ability at all if Doma would even be able to do that. Freezing his limbs would be able to do nothing, as Akaza would be able to just regrow his limbs, just cut them off and regrow them. That would do nothing. His blood demon art is only really more useful against humans than it is demons. Whereas the latter, Doma would not be able to bypass Akaza's Compass, so Akaza's blood demon art, which isn't actually very good when facing humans, would be way better when facing a demon like Doma, while Doma's blood demon art would be way better while facing humans and less good while facing a demon like Akaza. And as I stated before, Akaza has those long-range shockwaves attacks in that end style that he used on Giyu in the end, his strongest moves. He is just sending attacks from every direction, just also utilizing shockwaves. I'm pretty sure in that attack, I'm pretty sure he is, but he has just basic shockwave attack that he used against Rengoku as well. So if Akaza needed to play a long-range fight, I'm pretty sure he could get that done as well. He has the feats for it. So Akaza just scales above him in strength, speed. His blood demon art would be better for a 1v1. It's just no feats going towards Doma that would scale him above the likes of Akaza. And that just goes to show that rank truly doesn't matter. And I mean, we only see Akaza is aiming for rank 1. He never shows interest in upper rank 2. And I mean, it's for good reason. He clearly only wants to be number 1. He could defeat Doma if he needed to. Let me know whether you agree or disagree in the comments. I mean, if you have an argument for Doma, I would really like to hear it. You know, I'm not biased at all. If you have a good argument and I'm wrong and maybe I'm overlooking something, I would like to know it. But I will probably be uploading a video ranking all the Hashira, or either ranking all the upper moons in place, or I could also do, if you will, let me know in the comments. Because I can rank the Hashira in order, but should I rank them in order as in terms of demon slaying, or should I rank them in terms of 1v1ing? Because, you know, Shinobu, who would not be high in demon slaying at all, as the upper rank moons can pass information about the poison through each other, and that would make it then easier for any one of them to break down her poison with ease. Versus, I mean, her speed is just able to blitz upper moon too. So, you know, people like fucking Tengen, you could argue she would just completely just fucking cut off his head, even though Tengen would be more useful in a demon battles because of its massive size and strength. He would actually be able to cut off demon's head and cause some actual damage to them. But that'll be all. Later.